This is the ultimate question. What phone should I buy today? Not everyone has $1,000 to spend on a phone, but if you have $300, this might be the phone for you. The price might scare you off, but trust me, this is a very special phone. Should you buy the Pixel 3 XL in 2020? Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review. Check out the social media listed above in the description for some extras. This is the first phone that will get 2 review videos, and I get to tell you if it's worth buying in 2020. This will be fun. This is a big part of the phone for 2 reasons. It was weird because at the time companies had notches, but never this deep. I honestly had no issue with this, but my first thought was also that there should be a point for this, and that's exactly what Google gave us. This 1440 display is 6.3 inches, and I honestly feel like it fit pretty well. In my time using this phone, whether we're talking about in 2020 or 2018, it's no different. This is a clear Samsung display that makes everything look nice. It's not the best Super AMOLED panel, but it is pretty close. There have been cases of burn-in, but I personally have never seen any, unlike the Pixel 2 XL. Then we have the chin, but like the Pixel 2 XL and unlike the Pixel XL, it is needed. The bottom front-facing speaker is nice because it allows for a dual speaker experience. It's not the best, but I'm glad that it's here. As for the screen, there will be some color shift when tilting the phone, but I always disregard stuff like this because that's not how you're supposed to use this phone. Regardless of all the hate, I still think that the weird face on the top is not actually that bad, and it stands out more if you have a screen protector on this phone. So the battery life is so-so. Getting through the day with medium to light usage is not difficult at all, but doing more than that will be. If you're buying this phone used, I wouldn't worry too much about the battery because normally Google offers a warranty for 2 years that would cover heavy battery degradation. But if you're not the original owner, this will make it very difficult to get the battery replaced if you did need to take advantage of that. Either way, changing the battery is not too difficult to do yourself once the back has been removed. Okay, we're sidetracking, but the point is that if Google offers a 2-year warranty and that includes the battery, then you shouldn't have to worry too much about this over time. For me, I had no issues with the battery, even with the occasional Google Maps usage and having the always-on display always on. When you play games on this, you may run into some issues with battery life, but let's be honest, very few flagship devices that aren't gaming focused don't really have good battery life when you do play games. This 3430 mAh cell should fit into anyone's life pretty well, but it would be nice if they didn't decrease the battery life moving from the Pixel 2 XL to the Pixel 3 XL. This is the main part of the phone, and there are 3 reasons because of this. There are 2 cameras on the front, which is interesting to me, but the most interesting part is that they are both 8 megapixel sensors, one being an ultra-wide sensor, while the other is a focusable normal sensor. Even to this day, this is the best front camera setup on any phone that I've ever used. The wide-angle sensor seems kinda gimmicky, but the standard sensor is amazing, especially for portrait shots. But video recording with this is alright. Nothing special really, but just standard 1080p at 30 frames per second. As for the back camera, again, absolutely amazing. The single lens setup competes with phones with 2, 3, even 5 camera sensors. But why does this even happen? Because of software. Portrait mode is software. Super zoom is software. Night sight is software. Pretty much everything is software, but the visual core does help process all of these shots. This is why even the Pixel 4 had trouble beating the Pixel 3, because the camera hardware and software is just that good. And it doesn't matter whether you're taking a shot during the day or night. The biggest issue that I have is video recording. Even the Pixel 4 has the same recording capabilities, and Google even lies on their website. 720p recording does not exist anymore other than in slow motion video, but 1080p 60 frames per second also doesn't exist. Instead, you get 30 frames per second or auto, meaning that the phone will decide when 60 frames per second is needed, and then will switch to 30 frames per second, and then back to 60 frames per second. Dumb, I know, but with 4K you only get 30 frames per second with no option of 60 frames per second. It sounds fine, but the Snapdragon 845 processor in this phone gives all phones this option of 4K at 60 frames per second, but when Google was making this phone, they said no. Weird to be a camera-centered phone with terrible recording options. With all this said, there is more to this phone than just the cameras. There's something about this phone that pretty much no other phones have, and that's pure Android, with just the right amount of Google fluff. Sure, there are some arguable features like music recognition or the squeeze feature for the assistant, but the Pixel experience in this phone is different from other stock or stockish Android phones. It is an elegant experience that gives you what you need without really confusing you too much, other than the changes to the camera app with Android 10. This is a sleek phone that always causes disruptions, and it's 100% needed. Luckily, Google doesn't have to rely on this phone to make all of their money, but it is a reminder that Google can make something so good without even trying. Google was late to the Snapdragon 845 party, and the 4GB of RAM was annoying, yet this was the go-to phone that just did everything. Also, I wish they would add memory card support, but 64GB or 128GB isn't that terrible if you're buying the phone used. I can try and compare this phone to something like Tesla cars, which aren't made perfectly. They are fairly expensive, like this phone, and they are not perfect, just like the Pixel line. Yet they are the go-to for people looking for an electric car that just works, just like how the Pixel line just works. I can tell you all the faults that I've had with the Pixels that I've owned, but that will never stop me from wanting to use them. The Pixel line is not perfect or even close to that, but at the very least, it is the bar that phone manufacturers need to beat if they want to compete in the flagship world. I get disappointed hearing the specs of every Pixel phone that is released, but I also understand we need the Pixel line to exist. No, this phone is not the best. Even at the time of the release, it was not the best phone out there, but it was an awesome phone, and it still is. Kind of blending in with the purpose section, this is one of my favorite phones. My issue with the Pixel line is always the price because there's always something missing. With this phone, not much is missing, except for a couple gigabytes of RAM. Everything on this phone is going the right direction, but it's not done properly. The front cameras have to be near each other, so that explains why the speakers are so small, but they couldn't just copy the Pixel 3, like how the Pixel 4 and the Pixel 4 XL copied each other. I understand that the Pixel 3 XL's design is supposed to stick out, but still, it's kind of frustrating that they couldn't just copy the Pixel 3. The back is glass with an awesome designed matte finish, and it even has fast-ish wireless charging. USB-C on the bottom, like normal, with no return of the headset jack. But what are you gonna do? Did I mention the continued water resistance on this phone? And you get stuff like the painted power button on the white phone. Software updates will be first to hit this phone and then pushed to non-Google made phones, which is always nice. There's a single back camera on this phone, and it keeps up with most phones made in 2019, which is outrageous to me because this phone came out in the end of 2018. Again, this is not the best phone out there, even at launch, but it is still a very respectable phone that other companies have to be better than. This phone just works. But should you buy this phone in 2020? Absolutely. I just told you how awesome this phone is in the last two categories, so there's not really much for me to say other than hopefully this phone lasts a couple more years, just like the Google Pixel has. This phone can be better, but it's also crazy that so many phone reviewers stuck with this phone for so long, even with the issues that the phone had near launch. It's just a really good phone that needs some more RAM. And that's all I wanted to talk about. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section or message me on Twitter. I get pretty bored over there. Also, check out my social media listed above, subscribe and hit the bell button if you like the channel and want to see more videos. And if you made it this far, that's awesome. I appreciate that. I have over 160 videos out now, so go check those out and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.